Hello and welcome to HobbyBobs. This week we're trying out hand lettering. I've got this old bullet journal from around 6 years ago and I thought it would be great to fill some of the leftover pages with hand lettering experiments. Lettering is something I've always been intrigued by since I was a kid. I remember one of my first ever books that I got when I was about 5 was a lettering stencil book that allowed me to trace different fonts. My curiosity for cursive handwriting and bubble lettering continued to grow, and I'd find every excuse to make my titles fancy in my school notes or doodle in my planners and sketchbooks with different typography styles. During my bullet journaling phase, I got into the trendy calligraphy brush lettering style and really got stuck in with the monthly theme pages, which allowed me to play with various lettering styles too. However, I've been out of the habit for a while now and put it on the back burner, which I definitely felt the repercussions of when I put pen to paper and tried to freestyle these letters. So I started off simple this time and warmed up with some of that bullet journal calligraphy writing since it felt most natural to me. One of the biggest things I notice when I'm trying something new or picking up a new skill again after a while is the resistance to doing something that doesn't meet the standard of what I'm capable of. I really try to overcome this by relieving myself of the pressure to measure everything down to the T, attempting not to be a perfectionist about spacing and alignment. My first couple of pages were super simple pairings of upper and lowercase letters to get my hand accustomed to the pens I was using. Because this was just a warm-up exercise for me to get used to putting that pen to paper and really feeling out my brush pens again, I felt comfortable going in with a red marker once I had filled the page and just marked on where I thought I could make my lines better or where I could work on my spacing so that I could be conscious of it when I actually came to brush lettering something a little bit more carefully. So this is what I came up with by the end of that page. You can practice hand lettering with pretty much any medium. I find that having a couple of options like a pencil for rough sketches and drafting, as well as a pen to go over and refine the final rendition of your letters is a great way to make the most out of this hobby. Even something as simple as a HB or 2B pencil and a fine liner of a medium thickness does the trick. You can always fill in the thicker parts with the same pen. Having said that, I remember the joy that I felt when I tried out my first brush pen, and wow, was it a whole game changer when it came to hand lettering. It feels so freeing to let the brush nib flow across the page, and changing the thickness of the marks with a slight adjustment of pressure feels like magic. Okay, maybe I'm over-romanticizing it a little, and judging by how much I need to get my skills up to scratch again, the current state of my letters are far from magic. Having said that, I am really big on feedback and self-improvement, whether that's personal development or a practical skill like hand lettering. And improving my technical capabilities is one of my favourite parts of learning new hobbies. Personal growth is something that's important to me, so reflecting on my progress and noting down where I feel I could do better, like where I marked some of my letters in red, is simply a fun part of the process for me. Acknowledging my weak points quickly and efficiently in this way, like where I could have used more control of the pen, where my letters break, or where the spacing/alignment is off, really helps me to get that critical voice out of my system and get back to having fun with creating. After that little warm-up exercise, I decided to take the lettering to the next level and bring one of my favourite quotes to life. A smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. This saying really acts as a reality check when I struggle to accept the necessity of tough times. Because we as humans are naturally inclined to chase comfort, we rob ourselves of the opportunity to grow from the challenges adversity grants us. It's easy to say we value self-development and bettering ourselves as humans, but that requires seasons of losing the parts of us that we cling on to, which no longer serve us. The concept of growing pains applies to personal growth as much as it does physical. If we want to grow as people, we have to be willing to be bad at things that we try for the first time, to be the worst in a room full of people who are experts at what they do. By the same token, I am trying to find the courage to not only film this video and personally confront this creative work that I view as subpar to my standards, but put it out in an online public space for people to see and potentially judge me by. You can see here that I went in with a pencil to just mark some general spacing guidelines, make sure that the letters that I'm illustrating are roughly of a consistent height across each line, and just really trying to place and compose the quote in a way that I feel fits best on the page. I attempted to vary the styles of the letters across the different parts of the saying. I jumped in without planning it in too much depth, but looking back, I definitely see there was an attempt to play with hierarchy, as each group of words played a different role visually in the quote. The last phrase, skilled sailor, stands out as bold and decorative against the more simpler description of the smooth sea, whilst the calligraphic never made emphasizes the importance of realizing we'll never achieve great things in our comfort zone. At least that's my attempt at post-rationalizing my graphic decisions in retrospect. Whilst people might not necessarily think that much in depth about the role of the letters, the way that we use graphic qualities definitely impacts how we perceive visual content that we come across. So whether that's colour, style, scale, etc. It's something that I still tried to be intentional about as I was illustrating this quote. On that note, about the bold and decorative words of the phrase, I went in with a blue pen and tried to add lines that graphically represented rope, so a more nautical ship based pattern that communicates just in a more illustrative way that this is a quote about the sea and, water, captains, sailors, and all those kinds of related things. After rubbing out some of those pencil marks from earlier, I went in with the same blue pen and added some lines to represent the waves in the sea and really try to embed part of the quote in a strong visual background setting. Finally, I went in with a grey brush pen and just added in some internal shadows to the letters of the decorative skilled sailor parts of the quote. And this is the final product. The next quote that I played around with reads, "A ship in harbour is safe, but that's not what ships are for." And this is another reminder to not become complacent in your life and stay in your comfort zone, which can be tempting when life throws challenges at you, but it's really important to rise to those challenges and come out the other side a better, stronger, more developed person. So I just kept this to a more loose, playful style with just some sketchy black lines, some blue accents with the same fine liner and a lighter blue brush pen. The final part of my experimental hand lettering session consisted of brainstorming some elements of hand lettering, just so I could have a reference point when I needed to hand letter something in the future and wanted a reminder of what to consider when I'm planning out a hand lettering style. Once again, I opted for the thicker, bolder font type, which allowed me to experiment with a more illustrative style. Here I played around with a few different lines and patterns in each of the block letters, which, looking back, I think the only thing that really ties this heading together is the bold red colour of the fine liner. But if I was making something like a heading that was more intentional, I would probably choose one filling / decorative style and keep that consistent across all of the letters. Again, these pages are just for me to play around and experiment with different hand lettering styles and not take myself too seriously, so this is more of like a sketchbook page or sketchbook series of pages rather than refined, planned out, well thought through hand lettering examples. And once again, I brought in that grey brush pen, this time opting for external drop shadows rather than shading the inside of the letters. That is pretty much it for the video, so thank you for watching. Comment down below if you'd like to see more hand lettering videos in the future, and let us know if you do hand lettering or bullet journaling or something similar yourself. See you in the next video.